Hi, I'm Kimberly Springer, curator of the Oral History Archives at Columbia, or OHAC. OHAC is home to one of the world's oldest and largest oral history collections. Founded in 1948, our collections range across topics such as philanthropy, business, radio, publishing, filmmaking, medicine, science, public health, law, the military, architecture, and the arts. Our collections also feature activist histories of the New Left, civil rights, and peace movements, as well as community history. Biographical interviews in our collection illuminate social, political, and cultural history through the telling of a life story. I want to start with this definition of oral history. Oral history is a catch all term applied to two things. It refers to the process of conducting and recording interviews with people in order to elicit information from them about the past. But an oral history is also the product of that interview, the narrative account of past events. So, in that sense, oral history is both a research methodology, a means of conducting an investigation, and the result of the research process. In other words, it is both the act of recording and the record that is produced. In this video, there's a great definition of oral history, so let's give a listen.
I'm Professor Ifoma Nwankwo, Associate Professor of English at Vanderbilt University. I'm in the English department. I also have an affiliation with the Department of Teaching and Learning here.
Excellent. So if you could define for us, what is an oral history?
What is an oral history? That's a fantastic question. I like to think of an oral history as the story of what had happened, which is very different from the story of what happened.
Okay.
So an oral history is a verbal narration of what had happened, which is richer in many ways than what happened. What happened would normally be the very traditional story that you would read in a book, something that had a narrative format that was organized chronologically, that the once upon a time story. Once upon a time, this happened and Rapunzel let down her hair and the prince climbed up and it was over. What had happened was, well, let me tell you, see, Rapunzel's mother was a trip, and this is what happened, and then Rapunzel started growing her hair because her mom wouldn't let her go get it cut, and I saw Rapunzel one time, and oh my goodness, that was crazy what she was doing. And I tried to fix her up with this other person, but then and she just wanted to go live in that tower. So that is the difference in my eyes between what happened, which is typically written in a book, which is typically in chronological order, which typically meets all the requirements of a traditional story. What had happened is actually more interesting and richer, because it will have all kinds of layers and all kinds of dimensions to the story that you might not get if you require it to be in chronological format, or you require it to only always be in first person, or only always be in the voice of the omniscient narrator. The oral history provides multiple dimensions of a story. Even if it is told by one person, that one person typically includes multiple voices and multiple perspectives.
Increasingly, we see in the media these nods to oral history. These newspaper, magazine, and blog articles about famous people, movies, concerts, etc., do tell a historical story or a backstory, but they aren't oral history. These are instead unedited interviews. Oral histories can focus on one event or happening, but there's more to it than this easy and sometimes lazy form of content creation. An incisive send up of this tendency to call unedited interviews oral history was satirized in a 2017 McSweeney's piece called The Oral History of This Oral History. Another popularization of the use of the term oral history comes in the form of popular storytelling events, podcasts, and public radio segments. Let's watch this short video from StoryCorps.
just start by asking you one of the questions on my list, right?
Anything you want.
Okay. So what were you like as a kid?
I was pretty weird. I didn't want to do anything but watch TV. And I spent a lot of time by myself. But I always liked talking to older people, like the waitress at the luncheonette near my house or my grandparents. I remember when I was just a few years older than you, your great-grandpa Abe and your great-grandma Rose and her sisters came over to our apartment for Thanksgiving. After dinner, I found this tape recorder lying around, and somehow I got the idea to interview them. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I recorded their voices and stories, and I saw how much they loved being listened to. A few years later, your great-grandpa and your great-grandma and all her sisters passed away. But I remembered I'd made that tape, so I went looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Even now, when I go to your grandma's house, I go looking for that tape, just hoping it's going to turn up.
I don't get it. Why do you keep looking for it?
Because it would make me so happy to hear those voices again, and I'd love to play that tape for you. You know, doing that recording really taught me something. You can find the most amazing stories from regular people. All you have to do is ask them about their lives and listen.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, it's simple. We can learn so much about the people all around us, even about the people we already know, just by taking the time to have a conversation. And if you pay just a little attention, you'll find wisdom and poetry in their words.
Do people really want you to ask about their lives?
Yeah, they do. Most people love to be listened to because it tells them how much their lives matter. All you need to ask are questions like, who is the most important person in your life? Or what are you proudest of? Really, listening closely is simple. When you're curious, treat people with respect, and have just a little courage to ask the important questions, great things are going to happen.
Storytelling is a great creative way to bring people together, but it has some different motivations and features than regular oral history. Usually, there's a set list of questions. Storytelling is also heavily edited to showcase an emotionally provocative response. And also, the types of projects and success of those projects is sometimes shaped by fundraising imperatives. So here's how we view oral history here at the Columbia Archives, bearing in mind that these criteria have evolved over a 70-year period and under the guidance of many talented oral historians. First, oral history is offering people space to tell their story how they want to tell it. Next, it's a series of open-ended questions or topics. Also, the oral historian has a willingness to follow where the story organically takes you. Oral history is also a collection of memories and personal commentaries on a person's life and significant events. And lastly, oral history is not giving voice to the voiceless. People already have voices. We just need to listen. So thanks for watching this short video. If you have further questions, you can email us or visit our FAQ for information about using the archives.